Denis Villeneuve has already cast some of the big roles that are set to appear in the highly anticipated Dune Part 2, but one character that is yet to be cast will definitely be more tricky than the rest. Alia Atreides is the role in question, and based on the story, appearance, and details of this character, it's definitely going to be an intriguing one to see come to life in the second part of the Atreides story. In this video, I'm going to be discussing how Denis Villeneuve and his team will go about adapting Alia Atreides in Dune Part 2, alongside some potential candidates of who I would like to see play her. There will be spoilers from the back part of the original novel, so I would recommend not watching this video if you are someone who hasn't fully read Frank Herbert's book yet, or if you don't want to know about big spoilers from Dune Part 2. But before I get into it, if you want to keep up to date on any of my content surrounding Dune Part 1, Part 2 and beyond, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my thoughts on Alia Atreides in Dune Part 2. So Dune Part 2 is due to begin filming this July, and already Denis Villeneuve has cast Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, Austin Butler as Fade Rotha, and Christopher Walken as the Emperor. And while the story of the first book and Villeneuve's potential trilogy is focused on telling the journey of Paul Atreides in becoming the Fremen Messiah and the powerful Kwisatz Haderach, there's more important roles yet to be added surrounding the overarching plot. Someone else who is crucial to this whole journey is Paul's sister Alia Atreides. In the first film, we saw a vision of Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, with her currently unborn child, and as the daughter of Duke Leto and Jessica, she is a really important character in later events. But she's also quite the unique and weird character that poses tricky obstacles too. Because of her exposure to the Water of Life, a classic scene on its way in Dune Part 2, Alia is born as a Reverend Mother, giving her ultra-powerful abilities from the moment she is born. She also goes on to kill her grandfather, the twisted Baron Harkonnen, with a Gom Jabbar. But from birth, she is also aware of her ancestors' memories, making her essentially a child with the mind of an adult and having access to space and time. And she can walk at quite a young age too. Of course, there's a lot that Alia does after the events of the first book, and even by the end of the first story, that being that she no longer looks like a child and physically looks like an adult. She still has the memories and personalities of numerous generations of her family, so really she's multiple characters in one body and has the combined knowledge of both the Atreides and the Harkonnens. And later on in Dune Messiah, as Paul goes missing, Alia essentially takes his place as the power regent of the universe. She's one of the characters in Dune that's defined more along the lines of being good, even though that, like her brother, she at times makes decisions that aren't totally nice. But when it comes to the first book and eventually Children of Dune, she's one of the players who makes big moves to advance the overall plot, and her influence is one that eventually becomes bigger than her brother's. As a whole, Alia begins as quite a weird mystery, and she ultimately ends up being one of the most powerful forces in the Dune universe. So with the brief details outlined, how will Denis Villeneuve and his team go about adapting Alia Atreides to the big screen? Well, like already stated and exemplified in Alia's early journey, she is a really difficult character to cast because she's technically about 2 years old during the events of the first Dune novel. But also, because she was basically born an adult in a child's body, they'll have to do something about capturing this character in the right way. For starters, she'll have to visually feel seamless on screen, and 2, the performance of whoever plays her will have to carry Alia Alia's sensibilities along. I think to start with, they definitely have to age her up for Dune Part 2. If we go back to David Lynch's Dune, we had an 8-year-old actress in Alicia Witt, and also a similar-aged Laura Burton playing Alia in the 2000 miniseries. We know that aging up from the second film to the potential third film is already a difficult prospect, because she goes from about 4 years old at the end of the first novel to 16 by Dune Messiah. But aging her in Dune Part 2 would make that process a bit easier. Plus, with Denis Villeneuve already stating that he's going to leave a larger gap between Part 2 and his Messiah film to allow this aging, it would be a better option on the whole. He's currently planning to do a film on Rendezvous with Rama in between Dune 2 and 3, so we are potentially looking at 5 years between Dune Part 2 and the third film releasing. So if they cast a slightly older actress for the second film, say around 8 years old like other adaptations, then it would be more fitting come Messiah. With an 8-year-old, they could use camera trickery and light visual effects to make it more seamless too, so I think there are ways around this issue. Still, casting is going to be a difficult thing to pull off, because you'll need an actress possibly around 10 years old that can, for one, look younger, and two, act like an adult in a child's body. I think it would almost be impossible to cast an age-accurate version for the second film, because then in roughly 5 years' time, they've got to play a character that's roughly 16 years old. Let alone, at such a young age, pull off the complex character that is Alia in talking like a grown adult. Many have suggested that they just do some sort of CGI trickery or de-age her using a character model. Could this work? Maybe, but I don't think it would be the best choice in Denis Villeneuve's more realistic adaptation, where many filmmakers today would capture a lot of Dune in studio sets or on a green screen. Denis actually took the whole team out to the desert and other locations to film as much possible in camera with the actors. So he's going to go for something as real as he can, yet try his best to stay faithful to the character of Alia. So yes, I think the best choice would be to just get a child who's around 8 to 12 and use some sort of camera trickery in a similar way to what they did, for instance, with the Hobbits in Middle-earth. May not be totally accurate, but when you start using too much CGI, it can get really messy. And I think Denis knows that himself. But I guess in saying that, Denis has also used a lot of visual effects in previous sci-fi endeavours and made them look great. If you remember Blade Runner 2049, they literally created a CGI enhanced model of Rachel from the original film, and while you could tell that it was CG, it did look really impressive considering the gap between the two films. So overall, the main thing to keep in mind is that Villeneuve is going for an accurate as possible adaptation, and this might likely involve aging Alia up and making adjustments with the way they film her to create an appearance that is more like the age we know from the second half of the original book. I think that would make sense, and Villeneuve is quite known for using filmmaking methods that play with perception in the most realistic way possible. The visual effects, costumes and sets in his films are often seamless, so casting an actress that's a little older but looks younger would honestly be the best way over playing with too much CGI. So who could they cast as Alia in Dune Part 2? Well, there are different options when it comes to early fan casting that I would align with, and because this is a trickier role, the filmmaker might even have to pick someone who's a bit more unknown and could have shined in auditions for the role. However, the current young actresses of greater popularity that come to my mind include Violet McGraw from The Haunting of Hill House, who also played alongside Rebecca Ferguson in Dr. Sleep, Brooklyn Prince from The Florida Project, Lexi Rabe from Avengers Endgame and Godzilla King of the Monsters, Lily Aspel from Wonder Woman, and then also Julia Butters from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Some of these actresses, like Julia Butters for instance, are a bit older than the targeted 8 to 12 years age range I mentioned before, but I think they could quite easily resemble someone younger or have the acting potential to maybe pull it off. If Denis Villeneuve does decide to go a little bit older, there are considerably more options too. Casting this role is already incredibly difficult, and it's hard to find an actress of a certain young age that can play all the mind-bending characteristics of Alia. What we do know is that Denis will have to keep Dune Messiah in mind when it comes to this casting, and that if the methods surrounding her capture or performance in Dune Part 2 are successful, then it will spring much more confidence for the future of this character on the big screen. I can't wait to see what they do, and as I've listed, there are many directions that they can take with her. But that was my video discussing how Alia Atreides could be adapted in Dune Part 2. Denis has got a lot of things to consider when adapting the new characters in his second film, but I wanted to address Alia in a topical video because I honestly think that she will be one of the biggest hurdles to overcome. She's crucial to the end of the book and the later books that follow, and while this is Paul Atreides' story, getting Alia right will make the end of this second film feel like the perfect springboard into whatever is done next in this Dune universe. We know that Denis wants to adapt Messiah to round out his trilogy, and having all the elements and characters done well leading into that will create a great landscape for the future of Dune with other projects. Also, I'm just really interested to see what his take on this iconic character will be. Like I was saying, hopefully she's not brought to life with overly done CGI, and I think with Denis being a filmmaker who strives to capture things in the most realistic way he can, I'm quite positive that he won't go down that road. But then again, even if he does opt for that, he'll likely do it in a seamless way. Think about how he visualized the sandworms and even enhanced the locations using realistic visual effects in the first film. We can only wait and see, but I think that based on how Denis Villeneuve and his team have adapted other elements of this world so far in a pretty great way, then we are hopefully in safe hands when it comes to the newly introduced characters and aspects of the second film. But let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are towards how they will go about adapting Alia in Dune Part 2, and are you excited to see this adaptation's take on that character? For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.